First public meeting, the first public hearing for the fiscal year 2027 budget. The public meeting will be open for 1 minute. If anyone would like to come and address the board, you may come to the podium right now. And we will keep this meeting open for 1 minute. All right, the public meeting is now closed. Do we have a motion to adjourn the public meeting?
I move to adjourn.
So moved. The public meeting is now adjourned. This brings us now to our regular board meeting. We'll all stand and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, that brings us to item 2.0 for the agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second that.
Second, has been any discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Director Berge?
Yes.
Director Castro?
Yes.
Director Ingalls?
Yes.
Director Hansen?
Yes.
Director Larkin?
Yes.
Director Given?
Yes.
Director Witter? Yes. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. That brings us now to number 3, recognitions, commendations, and information. Seeing we had none in preparations, spring sports just getting underway, so I'm sure we'll start having them as their competitions begin to roll in. Okay, 3.1, student board representative report. Do we have a student representative tonight? Seeing none, rolling on. President Saban, if anyone in the audience would like to approach the podium and direct any questions or comments or direct comments to the board, feel free to come up and do so at this time. Seeing none, moving on. BEA report, Emily, come on down.
Chat with us too. Yeah, we're moving fast. We really are. Hello. Short report tonight, but I'm sorry, I'm tall. The associations and the district teams work collaboratively through the IVPS process and intends to negotiate a settlement in our contract this year. In your closed session tonight, you know that you'll be seeing the association's proposal along with the district's initial, and considering where we have come to an agreement and where we still have work to do, we wanted to take the time to thank everyone that's part of the process. We were there really last night for all the work and effort put in. And I also want to take a moment to recognize that we're all Bettendorf, wherever we are at the table. We are all Bettendorf. We want to see the best for everybody, and what the best is for each person may look different. So we need to recognize and honor that for each person that's coming to the table. So just, I want to put that there, like, we all want the same thing. We want to move our district forward in a positive directions. And as I look and work with our teachers, we want that too. And bringing their voice to the table and being their representative, I'm proud to do that. But everyone has different needs, and what that looks like is different. And so listening to what they're saying, listening to the trends that are happening, the best place that you guys can check out too with some of the educator updates is through the isca.org website if you are wanting some legislative updates or what teachers are saying out in the state of Iowa as well as here. It's a great resource that you guys can go and visit. Another thing that we want to take a moment to ask is if there are questions about the IBPS process, if there's questions about how that is structured. I've had a moment a few times to talk with Ryan and Paul, with Miley, to kind of talk about how that communication works. We touched base 2 times, and we were able to share how does the communication come through with teacher concerns or celebrations. One thing we were just highlighting was that the last 2 times that we've come to Check and Connect, we've brought some bigger issues that are things that we're working through and problem solving collaboratively with. But we've gone some BEA meetings where it's little to no concerns being brought to that meeting. And that's a huge celebration because that means that the conversations that are needing to happen at the administrative and our building rep levels are happening. And they're able to work through that at the building level. And that's a huge celebration through the conversations that we've been supporting and to remind to try to solve it at the lowest level possible, like it states in our board policies, right? And so that when we're working with Dr. Morris and Miley, that we're able to work on those things that are kind of bigger that may be coming through that we need to address at a bigger level. And so I think there's a lot to celebrate with that. So as we think about when we do the IDPS process, when we start negotiating and talking about that, we are all wanting the same thing. We want to move forward. But how does that look like? What does that sound like? And I think we all have a seat at the table. And so let's use our voices so we can continue to move us forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Bessa, Melissa, come on down.
So before I get started on my actual report for Bessa, I want to do a shameless plug. The high school musical Anastasia opens on April 23rd. And you can buy tickets on the high school website. I'm gonna leave this with Monica so she can post it. But the kids, that's where one of our student representatives is tonight, is their rehearsal. And the set is coming along and looks fantastic. So just want to do a quick shameless plug for the show. Our April meeting was canceled in anticipation of holding a meeting to vote and ratify our contract for the 26-27 school year. So we will reschedule our next meeting to coincide with that vote. Since the last board meeting, I've had the privilege of traveling to Chicago for the NEA Leadership Summit, along with Trent Teskey from BEA. I attended sessions on ESPs and the Model Code of Ethics for Educators, and then Trent and I attended a session together on interest-based bargaining titled Solutions That Unite, using IBB methods for member success, union strength, and lasting partnerships. This session was so impactful that Trent and I will be presenting on IBB at the ISC Summer Leadership Conference in Des Moines this summer. IBB is a process that works if we're willing to put the work into it, and I'm confident that our IBPS team will continue to move forward with this process. The more we learn and are willing to grow and collaborate, the stronger BCSD as a whole will be. Following spring break, I was on the road again, this time to Anaheim, California for the NEA Education Support Professionals National Conference, and was very excited to have one of our building reps, Vanessa Miller from Paul Norton, join me. We attended a 2-day pre-conference workshop on NEA microcredentials and ESP PLCs that we are very excited to discuss further with the IBPS team and Central Admin. Vanessa and I spent 16 hours learning about how we can use these microcredentials to help further our ESP training, and that was before the conference even actually started. There are specific stacks for ESPs that have pathways for every classification and stacks for teaching staff. One of my favorite sessions was the session on onboarding versus orientation, and I'm looking forward to meeting with HR and Dr. Morris about some great ways we can help our classified staff come into their positions at a higher comfort and confidence level. All of these trainings and the information we bring back to the district continue to build a stronger staff. At both conferences, Iowa was recognized for the work we were doing on the Educator Bill of Rights, and it was very exciting to be able to highlight the fact that Bettendorf took action on this important issue rapidly. Both NEA and ISD have the resolution that we passed and the photo that was taken at the February board meeting, and ISD has sent out this information to local media for release to the public. I want to give a joint shout out tonight to our building secretaries. This is the time of year where things begin to move very quickly. And while they juggle their normal day today, they're also working diligently to contact families to ensure we get everyone registered for the 26-27 school year, and I want to thank them all for their work on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item number 5, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Morse.
How to make it work. There we go. Mine will be a little bit long tonight, but I just want to go through some important legislation that we need to keep abreast of. So April, we've had the privilege of honoring many of our amazing staff in our district this month. April 1st was our Paraprofessional Appreciation Day. April 4th, we celebrated our National School Librarians for National School Library, our School Librarians for National School Library Day. This week, we are honoring and celebrating our assistant principals and deans. And Saturday will be National Therapy Dog Day, and we know they're a critical component of our district. I want to just personally say thank you to these amazing professionals for their dedication and tireless commitment to our students, their colleagues, and our families that they serve in our district. They really are a big part of our district and our district's success. The week of April 20th, we'll be honoring our incredible volunteers and our administrative assistants and building secretaries. They are the heart beat of our district as well. We couldn't do what we do without our PTAs, our PTOs, our booster groups, our BFAB groups, all of our parent organizations, and then our administrative and our assistants, and as Melissa said, our secretaries, who, especially at this time of the year, as they're still moving one school year forward and getting us ready for the next school year, they do incredible work. Last Monday, we had our school improvement committee group together. We engaged them in a similar process that our buildings did with their teams around digging into the 5 essentials. So as we know, we just recently wrapped up the survey piece of that component and waiting for some of our results. And then early June, our building leadership teams and all of our district leadership will engage in the final 2 required modules of training around the 5 essentials and dig into our data and start using that data along with our other data points such as ISAS and our PBIS survey data and other data to build our action plans for the following school year. We meet with them one final time in April, and they're starting to have some conversations around how do we tie our student achievement data, the updating of our strategic plan, because our strategic plan will be come to the conclusion of its first 5 years next year, at the end of next year, and wanting to revisit some of the portrait of the graduate work that was started pre-COVID, but was stalled, obviously, because of the changes. And so they want to know how they can support, they want to be a part of that, and we're going to look at what that looks like for next year. So they're a great group, very engaged, and always wanting to support the work of the district. And then Monday night, I had the opportunity to meet with all of our parent organization groups for our parent executive council meeting. I'm always blown away. We're supposed to only meet from 6 to 7, and I think this time they did not stop conversing until about 8:05, 8:10, and not one left. They just want to keep talking. They collaborate. They share ideas. They've helped each other share resources, so they're not buying duplicative things. So when they have dance parties or carnivals, they now can have even better events because they don't have to try to use all the money they fundraise to buy the materials and supplies. So it's really neat to see that cross-building collaboration and even cross-level collaboration. So they were talking about at the upcoming middle school parent meetings, working with the elementaries to advertise, inviting the incoming 6th grade parents to those parent meetings so they can start to get to know middle school families and start to get connected. And that was not happening 5 years ago. So it's really exciting to see them collaborate, and they do a lot for us. They raise a lot of money, provide us with a lot of additional resources, so we're grateful for them. And last Thursday, we had a district-wide professional development day. Every building led their own PD around what their building needed, and our administration center was closed for most of the day as we engaged in additional learning on our emergency operating procedures and reunification. I want to thank our facilitators that day were Kevin Skillett and Sarah Harris for leading us in a wonderful day of learning. And then always the fun topic, the legislative updates. They are in their week 13. This is a shorter session this year because it's an election year. They are supposed to wrap up this year on the 100th day, which will hit around April 21st. We'll see if they get there. Things are starting to move quickly. What we know as of today, there are still at least 10 budget bills working through the different appropriations committees on both the Senate side and the House side. We'll see where those land. Still things out there around district save dollars, which is what we use to help fund the construction and renovations of our buildings, which some of the proposed legislation could have a pretty significant negative impact on our district's use of those funds. And remember, those are not additional taxes through property tax. It's that 1 cent sales tax that the legislators passed years ago. And really it's kind of a, if you purchase goods and services, then you're paying sales tax. If you don't, then you don't have to pay that sales tax. But that helps us immensely. It's what helped us build Grant Wood and Mark Twain, and it is what's helping us finance the significant renovation over at Bettendorf Middle School. There is just a few bills of interest under what they're calling House File 2676. With the federal Make America Healthy Again. There's a strong piece going through around student instructional technology standards and looking at should there be limits to screen time, what does that look like, creating additional board policies and regulations around that with some exclusions. We'll see where that falls out. As I look through it, directing school boards to have written technology policies with very specific requirements on how we have to post, what has to be in the posting, completing a technology adoption checklist that staff would have to complete and update on a regular basis. And so while the theory of action behind the bill is has positive merit to it, when I look at some of the requirements, just again being mindful of staff who already have a lot on their plate, and we talked about it tonight with teachers and the workloads that they have, just some more increased work and compliance as this one rolls through. They would convene a working group. The Department of Ed would be responsible for convening that and leading that and giving the legislators in the governor's office recommendations by December 31st around what best practices of school technology would look like. So more to come on that. There's a piece also in that bill, an amendment running around physical fitness and the presidential physical fitness test. Positive thing happened. This is where local advocacy does have an impact. One of the House had a piece in that bill that would mandate 30 minutes of PE every day. And we would have to engage in student contracts for every student in the high school, in your high schools, that they had to be engaged in an extracurricular type of activity, whether it be a club, a sport. Great theory of action. We want students connected, but we also know across our state and even in our own district that structure after school looks very different. Some of our students have to work to help support the financial needs of their families, and so what does that look like for them? But it would also, both of those pieces, the PE piece and the extracurricular would require obviously additional staff, additional physical space for PE. Some of our gyms are not large enough to run 2 sections of a grade level at a time. But the amendment where I can't find it, and as we were talking in our SUPS meeting today, no additional funding to come along with that. So we have to be creative about what that would look like. Looks like that piece has, for now, been taken out of that bill. So due to a lot of local advocacy across the state to help them see. We encourage students to be active. We play an active role in that. Our students engage in PE. But how do we make that work when you can't just build a school or a gym overnight? It costs quite a bit of money to do that. And then that student behavior bill that everybody's pretty familiar with is still continuing to route through the Senate and the House, starting to shape up a lot of emphasis and work around ensuring that staff, classified, certified, gen ed, and special ed have access to a student's IEP, have training and understanding of what that IEP is being, what that student's IEP is requiring, which I feel in our district we do a really nice job of. We always have room to grow. There's a pilot out there. They're going to pick one rural school district in the state and one urban. We don't fall in the definition of either, so we can't apply for the pilot, to try to create a alternative educational setting and work with the state around that. I think there would be some funding in the initial year of it, and then those districts would be required to find the funding for it to sustain it ongoing. A piece about charter schools, that they would also, which is good, comply with any of the code changes around classroom disruptions and student behavior, but no mention of private schools in that they would have to follow the same piece. They're getting clear on the definitions of nonviolent disruption and violent disruption, so we're grateful for that as I worked with our local legislators around that. Vagueness in the code creates confusion and frustration, and so it's getting better as it iterates through both chambers. And then there's a lot of work still being done around what does it look like in the requirements of removing a student from a classroom. Right now, if a student were removed for either nonviolent or violent action, they would have to be under the supervision of a principal. Well, in many districts, unless you're at the secondary level, there's only one administrator in a building, and that if they have one student or two students, if they're in an IEP meeting with a parent, they'd have to immediately stop that meeting. That parent has probably taken some time off of work to be in that IEP meeting to attend to that student. There is in one chamber the talk of a designee, but if you don't have an additional adult, can't pull a teacher out of a classroom either, because now you've got to cover other students. So we'll continue to monitor that and work through that. Student is required to make up the work they miss while they're under the principal's supervision. So now we've got the principal managing that, running the building, and possibly teaching. So how do we help support our leaders in that? And then the requirement of having an additional meeting to establish a plan. Again, there's been concern expressed in our district about the amount of meetings adults attend, and so I worry about adding additional requirements around that. And then where you place students who are removed from the classroom under the principal. Our principal's offices are not large enough, maybe for one student or two. And so just as any support as board leadership in our district around engaging with our local legislators is always appreciated. There is some talk in the Senate about having to create an oversight review committee before a student could be readmitted. And then the talk of appropriate so to have teachers, an administrator, and someone who has a social, emotional, behavioral health background professional, all appropriate, but as our buildings can attest, scheduling the already required meetings is an art. There's so many meetings to get scheduled. And then not wanting to pull teachers out of the instructional day, we have to figure out how to get really creative with that. So I think those are some really big ones that have come to mind. The other piece that came up today, I had some, in a meeting I was in, there is a requirement that if it says requires the board to grant full paid leave of 3 days if staff, or if injured due to a violent disruption by a student. That's currently defined as a teacher. So the question was asked, what about our classified staff, such as paras, who are also engaged? And no mention of that would just be applicable to the certified staff, which to me creates an equity issue. Our paras are often front line with our students and really develop this our teachers develop great relationships with students, but sometimes those peers, especially those that support students one-on-one, have that closest bond with that student because they're with them for the great part of the day. And so I worry about equity around that. And then they had some stuff around teachers to request an IEP team meeting and having the authority to do so. Right now, federal law says any member of a student's IEP team can request a meeting. So I have a question in to our local legislators about what was, trying to better understand what that is so we can support that. And then there's some pieces with the charter school bill rolling around, potentially diverting the teacher salary supplement cost per pupil to the charter schools. But keeping in mind that TSS was not calculated based on per pupil, it's based on the cost of paying teachers at the new salary minimums. And so, how do districts then continue to help cover those increased commitments to salary schedules? It requires us as public school districts to allow charter school students to participate in sports, extracurricular activities. That could also trigger us having to hire additional coaches or staff, sponsors for those activities. But if you take those TSS dollars and not require the charter schools to have to pay for those students to participate, that's increased cost to the district that then diverts monies away from the general fund. So I think those are things that I would encourage our community to be aware of. We want to be inclusive places, but we also have to be mindful if we have additional students to serve without the additional dollars to follow, how do you bridge those gaps? And then, so I think those are the highlights. There's lots moving around in the legislation, as we all know, but I think that are critical things that we need to stay on top of, because ultimately they impact the work that our teachers and our staff do at the buildings on a daily basis. And so how do we continue to protect their already busy time to make sure that they have the resources and the time to get there to do the best work that they do without having to do things that don't come with additional funding. So that's my update for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 4, consent agenda. Is there a motion tonight to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
A second.
We'll get it to Director Hansen. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Director Castro,
Yes.
Director Ingalls,
Yes.
Director Hansen,
Yes.
Director Larkin.
Yes.
Director McGivern,
Yes.
Director Witter,
Yes.
Director Birdie.
Yes.
Motion carried 7.0.
Thank you. That brings us to agenda item number 5, February 2026 financials. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the February 26 financials as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion, Tyler. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. So when we had our board workshop, oh gosh, when was that? About a month ago. One of the questions that was asked was, what does a percentage of solvency relate to in terms of a total cash amount? So what I did was I took the total expenses year to date, right, because that's how much we're spending through, and converted that to a percentage amount. So we could reasonably say that 1% of solvency equals about $331,000. So for every $331,000 we lose, that's about 1% of solvency. So hopefully that helps as we continue these budget conversations. The other thing I want to point out from February is my team did some great work, and Scott's team did some great work cleaning up some of the POs that have been outstanding in our system. So in our financial software, when we encumber for a PO, it's recorded as an expense in that month, even if the expense isn't actually realized. So typically what they'll do is they'll do some expenses and some POs at the beginning of the year, just to kind of plan for the year, and as they realize they don't need them, we remove them from the system. So it's gonna look like there's a negative expense in the PEPAL fund, and so that's just what that is noting. That would be the only oddity I would say for that. And that's all I have to present on February. Questions?
Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call please.
Director Ingalls,
Yes.
Director Hansen,
Yes.
Director Larkin,
Yes.
Director McGivern,
Yes.
Director Witten, Director Birdie,
Yes.
Director Castro.
Yes.
I think me, yes, I'm Witter. Thank you.
Okay, so motion passes 7-0?
Yep.
All right, correct. Thanks a lot, thank you. Okay, moving on to 5.2, the budget guarantee resolution. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the 2026-2027 budget guarantee resolution.
Is there a
Do I
second?
need to read the rest of this?
Yes.
Okay, I'll read the rest of this here real quick. So resolve that the Board of Directors of Bettendorf Community School District will levy property taxes for fiscal year 2026-2027 for the regular program budget adjustment as allowed under section 257.14 in Code of Iowa. Do I need to read the grand levy rates stuff too, this whole part, right?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yep. The grand total levy rate is 12.13111. The FY 2027 regular program budget adjustment is $93,257.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yes. So this is a little bit of a misnomer. The state has changed budget guarantee process for this coming fiscal year. The state is now assuming the budget guarantee cost. When I reached out to the Department of Management to make sure that we still needed a resolution, they said yes. I said, should it still say levy against property taxes? They said yes. So my assumption is they're still working out the kinks or how this is going to look in the future. So I don't want it to be lost that this is back on our local property taxpayers. It is not. It is with the state now. But they asked for this resolution anyway.
Anything else? Okay, roll call please.
Director Larkin,
Yes.
Director McGivern,
Yes.
Director Witter,
Yes.
Director Birdie,
Yes.
Director Castro,
Yes.
Director Ingalls,
Yes.
Director Hansen.
Yes.
Resolution passes 7-0.
7-0.
Thank you. Okay, moving on down, that brings us to the fiscal year 2027 budget, proposed budget. Tyler?
So this is very similar to what we discussed at our board workshop. This is just a little bit more of a condensed version. So Monica, if you'll go to the next slide, please.
You do the slides in your folder.
This is the notice of public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just letting them know they have their slides, so
Okay.
if they wanted to follow along, they could, because sometimes the font up there is kind of small.
Yes. So this is the notice of public hearing that went out in paper. Next slide, please. Okay, so just some changes as we're looking forward here. Enrollment, comparing FY 26 budgeted enrollment, 3,800. And as we took our count on October 1st, 2025, budgeted enrollment for next year will be 3,779. So that's a decrease of about 1.27%. So we could reasonably say that we're anticipating decreased revenues of 1.27% from the state. SSA changes, so that's our state supplemental allowance, also called modified growth, or allowable growth, excuse me. For this year, they gave us 2%, and next year, the state is going to give us 2%. And as a reminder, the district would truly need about 4.07% to get ahead of inflation and get out of budget guarantee. So that gives us a new money from the state of about $215,000. Given all that information, this will change our levy rate a little bit for our local taxpayers. So our current rate is at 12.34, and with the state assuming the budget guarantee, and with the changes in valuations for the taxable base, we will be decreasing that levy rate down to 12.13 per thousand of taxable valuation.
Can I Tyler, can I interject for a second? So going back up to enrollment, another piece routed around legislation that I believe is very close to passing, if it hasn't already, because things are moving so quickly, would be that instead of doing an enrollment count one time a year, it would be done twice a year, and they would take the average of that. So for a district like ours, there's pros and cons to that. So this year in elementary, for one, in a long time, we've grown in elementary quite a bit since January in student enrollment, so that could have benefited us this year. However, if we keep in mind our secondary, our high school is a 4x4 block, right? It's fantastic in that it allows students to take lots of different classes and explore many interests, but it also affords them to graduate early. So as you've seen, and even on the consent agenda tonight, there was a long list of early graduates, correct? Well, those students wouldn't be counted in the second count. So then that makes it look like our enrollment has decreased, when in reality, we have offered, as you could say, a form of choice to our students to allow them to either work and have some experience before going to college or get into college early. We've had students even graduate early to join Iowa's football team last year because the coach wanted them second semester to start their college career early, right? And so waiting to see all the details around that. I understand what the theory of action behind that was, to try to balance that as students, there is fluidity with open enrollment and pieces like that. But for districts where you have a great likelihood of early graduates, I see that potentially making our enrollment look even more decreased than it is, which could impact funding from the state. So just keep that in mind. Thanks, Tim.
Can you go to the next slide, please? This is, again, that very large spreadsheet that the Department of Management makes us fill out, giving us all of our revenues and all of our expenses for each fund that we have. Can you go to the next slide, please? This slide here is just a little more condensed, a little easier to read than having to sort through all those rows and all those columns. So noted all the revenues from the different funds, the expenses. And then on the right, so we look at our total resources, we look at our total big picture, thinking about $150 million for our resources, offsetting that as our requirements, same number. We anticipate total authority of $86.2 million for next year. We anticipate unspent authorized budget of 26.9, and we anticipate a solvency ratio of 22% for next year.
Tyler, is that unspent authorized budget, that 26, is that all general fund?
Yes, unspent authorized budget only applies to the general fund. It does not apply to any of the other funds that we've talked about. Next slide, please. So this slide is again reviewing history of total authority and history of unspent authorized budget or unspent authorized authority. We're anticipating that this year will come in about 30.5%, and then we anticipate that'll tick up a little bit next year at 31.29%. Go to the next slide, please. And then just another quick look at solvency ratio. We expect solvency ratio to end at about 23.2%, and then we expect to decrease our solvency ratio, so our cash reserve down another percentage or so at the end of next year. Next slide, please. And then that opens it up to questions.
Seeing none, thank you. I believe this was just kind of the first go by on this, so we'll, no motion except, okay, moving on. This brings us to item number 5.4, revision to the board policy 704.04, first reading. Dr. Morse, you want to explain a little bit about the changes in that?
I will, I'm happy to turn it over to Tyler.
Oh,
Yeah, so this was a request that I made. We recently were inquired about a donation to the district via gift card. Gift cards are, you have to treat them like cash when it comes to accounting for them and when it comes to tracking them, right? As much loose cash as we have around here, or I don't want to say that, we don't have loose cash around here. We don't want to create another opportunity for loose cash around here, right? And that's how I view gift cards. I can also think of a potential situation where a vendor knows that our contract is expiring. They come in and they say, hey, I have this nice little a gift card for office supplies for you, and surprise, it's for their company, right? So in my view, that would be soliciting business, and I would not find that to be appropriate. So this would just be an adjustment to that policy, so we just don't accept gift cards any further. Because again, the tracking piece comes into play. My team has to track it, track where the gift card is, track how much has been spent, and it just creates unnecessary headache.
That doesn't limit cash or check donation, or let's say someone wants to donate books to a library that meet the requirements per state law, that does not prohibit someone from making those types of donations, correct?
Correct, yep, and we would prefer your cash if you're going to donate.
Tyler, just referencing when you said about just bags of cash laying around,
No, we don't have that, we don't have that.
by referencing, that did happen years ago.
Oh, okay.
And it created quite a sensation. So we had to change the policy procedures on that, and it's working out very well now, so thanks a lot.
Yep.
You made me think of that, thank you. Board Policy 902.01, second reading. Is there a motion?
I move to approve Board Policy 902.01 as presented.
Is there a second?
Director McGivern,
Yes.
Director Witter,
Yes.
Director Birdie,
Yes.
Director Castro,
Yes.
Director Engel,
Yes.
Director Hanson,
Yes.
Director Larkin.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, motion 7.0.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Larkin. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item number 6, communication, board shared communication and board reflection. Anyone like to start it off? Otherwise, we'll appoint. Director McGivern.
Sure. No, just hope all staff and everybody in the community had a good spring break coming off of that. I know, or I got to imagine, that from now until the end, it's quite the sprint, and I'm sure students are starting to get a little stir crazy as we get closer and closer to summer. But just welcome back to everybody. Hope everybody got some good time to rest and recover, and just want to, as always, say a big thank you to everybody in our district, staff, parents, students, everybody. Thank you for the things you're doing, and I hope we finish this school year strong.
Thank you. Moving down the line, Eric.
Just trying to get into, have a high school visit coming up. I'm excited about that, and really just want to keep getting into the schools more and making my face more recognizable, I guess, among the staff, and getting to know everybody. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Director Larkin.
Yes, the Wall Street Journal had an article this week about the U.S. had a record low birth rate in 2025, and that trend is likely to continue. So all schools nationwide are going to be under increased competition for resources and scarcity of students, so we have to really be smart about how we're recruiting and how we're managing our human resources and our cash flows here to deal with that challenge. Not an uncommon scenario as civilizations become more mature, as birth rates decline. And secondly, this is my opportunity to talk to the media. I was immensely disappointed in the article that was written coming out of last week's meeting. We had a packed boardroom here that talked about our accolades, missed. We talked about math in middle school, missed. Instead, what was reported was media policy, which is really only important to this body here, rather uninteresting, and that's what got reported. So I'd like to see more balanced articles coming out of our meetings. We talked about a lot of things tonight, just property taxes, policy coming out of Des Moines. I'd like to see that contrasted and how their policies impact us locally. I think that'd be much more interesting for our readers. So I used to write an article called Word from the Board President in the newsletter. Don't know if that's going to continue, but I think I'll take this opportunity to offer headlines and greatest hits from our meetings to help our media people report on our board meetings. Thanks.
Thank you. Just going along with the article you read about declining birth enrollments, are you encouraging our parents to stay home more often, turn off the TV and turn off their social media?
Yes, and as I evaluate my own situation, only having one kid, could, if I had opportunity to revisit that now, probably, take on more risk to have more. I think that's an important thing. We live in a great place, despite what the rhetoric out there. Having myself traveled as much as I have, I firmly believe that we are the best. Liberty, opportunity, opportunities to get ahead, explore your interests. And I think bringing more life into the world to experience those things would be a tremendous value add.
Good, great comments, thank you. Director Brody.
Okay. Well, I have recently become aware of two veteran teachers who are leaving after serving like 20+ years at Bettendorf. They're leaving for other districts. Two teachers I'm aware of are Sarah Rader and Carrie Hiding. I just think it's really hard to watch as we lose such highly respected, top-notch teachers. And you know, rarely do teachers leave after 20 years in a district, so that's kind of troubling to me. And I just want to say we appreciate everything they've done, and it is truly our loss.
Thank you. Director Hanson.
Well, again, welcome back everybody from spring break. Hopefully everybody had a great time and are well. I know it seems like everybody is sick thereafter, but hopefully we're over that and we can continue this year and to the fullest and let's get these kids graduated. I know they're excited, and especially for the teachers, staff, parent educators, educational staff there. They need the applause because this is going to be the time of the year that it really creates a lot of stress and havoc on them. The kids are bouncing off the walls. They get outside and play or whatnot, and they still have to teach. So more power, and I couldn't be more happy to provide support for those teachers. Also, something was brought up about the last day of school. So there's been, I don't know if there's communication or if we're still bouncing the date as to the last day. I know there's some teachers are like, can I buy an airline ticket on this day or what? So I don't know if that's been spoke about or if
There'll be communication coming out tomorrow to staff and families. We always want to make sure we're past the inclement weather. And then we also out of courtesy, not out of requirement, but definitely want to because of our collaborative relationships with our 3 unions, that it does take time for Miley and I to meet with the union leadership just to run the ideas. They had great input. We made some changes at those various meetings to how that communication read so that it could clear up questions. But that does take time when you have 3 different unions to meet with. So that will come out tomorrow.
perfect. Good timing. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Witter.
I don't have much, but being out in the community, there is a buzz about the middle school, and I have a lot of patients that go past and are very excited. And so they, and different people that I've run into, that they're very excited and really like seeing all the growth and changes that is happening in the middle school. So that's a great buzz to have.
Thank you for sharing that. Russell is coming to our April 20th SIAC meeting to give them an update. And we'll be attending, I think it's May 13th, whatever that second Wednesday is in May. I think, hopefully I didn't memorize the wrong date. We've asked them to attend the middle school parent PTA meeting. And that is also where incoming 6th grade families have been invited, and they're going to give an update. And then for you all to note, which will be in your weekly communication, please put on your calendar 5 p.m. Thursday, June 11th, so our last board meeting of the year. We will start around 5 p.m. over at the middle school. The district, Bray and Russell, would like to provide an update to the board in person before the core of that building comes down, starting 2 days after that. So you get to see, hopefully the addition will be ready for us to get close to it, like inside of it. And then they'll talk to you kind of about what the work in the summer looks like. So I do, and should have in my SUPS report, so Director Witter, thanks for jogging my memory, want to thank our IT team, our ops team, our finance team, and the middle school team for working with me and Bray and Russell. In our original contract, we had said we turn the building over closer to the end of June, but we've been meeting extensively to try to make magic happen so that we could give them the building 2 weeks earlier, so we can try to, if we have a July like we did last summer where it didn't stop raining, or there is some hiccup that comes up as they demo that building, we can be on target to try to get that building back the middle of August. So that would not have happened without that team. Scott working with the middle school team to get the abatement work done over spring break instead of waiting until June. We were very successful, everything but 2 classrooms, which put us ahead a good solid week. So everybody's been working really hard to keep it moving. So it's nice to hear our community, PEC did comment on it too, how nice it's starting to look and how it really feels a part of the building. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. And I'm fortunate enough to be on the selection committee for the Legacy Scholarship. It's a scholarship donated by one of our graduates that's gone on to do quite well. It's a $5,000 a year scholarship for 4 years, certain requirements on it, maintaining a certain grade point average, etc. I think last year we may have had 7 or 8 applicants for this scholarship. This year we had 36. So I spent Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday reading through the letters from the counselors and their personal story as to why they feel they're the best recipient for the scholarship. And all 36 are just outstanding students. I could just throw a dart at any of their names on a wall and hit any name, and it'd be well deserving of that student to receive $5,000 a year for 4 years to advance their education, whether it be trade school, college, etc., any kind of advanced education that they want to work on. So it's a great deal. So during board agenda planning, we talked about possibly maybe encouraging or trying to develop an endowment means where we could have more of our graduates that have gone on to do well to give back to their building and give back to their student body that they were once a part of. So I think that's something we can develop and work on and continue, because it's just a great experience reading about the experiences these kids have had to overcome justice, on how many of them have to work and what some of their aspirations are when they move on and graduate from here. You take time to read every line because they deserve that special attention, and hopefully we'll select the best one. Okay, moving on to number 8.1, enter an exempt session. Is there a motion to enter into exempt session? And please read the motion.
I think we need 7 real quick. I think we missed it. Yeah, there's 7.
I miss that every
I know.
time. Okay, and then,
That's the sneaky one.
upcoming
Just a
calendar
quick
events, you see them right there. Now, moving on to enter an exempt session, do we have a motion?
I will move to enter into exempt session as provided in the Code of Iowa, section 20.173 and 20.9, for the purpose of discussing strategies for negotiations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who won?
Brian.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Director Weir. Yes. Director Birdie.
Yes.
Director Castro.
Yes.
Director Ingalls.
Yes.
Director Hanson.
Yes.
Director Larkin.
Yes.
Director McGivern.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. We are now in exempt session. We'll take a 5.5 minute and 32 second break.